Hello, welcome back to Evil Genius Props. One of my last videos I did, set up my Elego Phecda. It's sitting on my workbench. That works okay, but it's also sort of right where I would like to have my bandsaw. So what we're going to do today is build a separate stand just for the Phecda to sit on. It's not very heavy, doesn't move a lot of mass around, as opposed to say a 3D printer where it's slinging the bed back and forth. This is just a little gantry moving back and forth, so I don't need it to be too heavy. That being said, a friend of mine was redoing their kitchen and gave me this chunk of IKEA butcher block that they had on their counter but don't need anymore. So I'm going to use that for the top. If I didn't have that, I would probably actually do a very similar build to what I'm going to do now, but with a few changes and just top it off with plywood instead. So, the top isn't actually big enough for the footprint for the Phecda. The dimensions are 22 by 26. Roughly what I need is 26.5 by 24, or roughly. So what I'm going to do is use these 2x4s, which of course, because they are 2x4, meaning 2 inches by 4 inches, are 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And make a frame to hold this and then support it from underneath. So basically we're going to put like a cradle on it and then put a frame around it to just bulk up the edges to be the same size. Now, if I didn't have this, I would probably still do the same kind of build and then just get especially if I didn't have a way to cut big sheets of plywood, you get a 2 foot by 2 foot project panel at, say, your local hardware store, big box hardware store. And then do the same thing, frame it out and just lay that on top, sort of sunken in, so that then with the frame it's big enough to hold the footprint of the Phecda. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to start off by just cutting these down and make the frame first, and then cut the legs to length. So I'm going to lay this out, like I said, basically to make a cradle and a frame around it. So the first thing I want to do is get the frame part done. So, we'll do the long sides to basically the right length. Here's my trick. So that I can just flip it and do the cuts at the same time. Let's just flip it around, so I'll cut from both ends. I'm going to use a miter saw to make this cut, mostly because that's what I have and it's the easiest tool for the job. If I didn't have that though, it'd be simple enough to just do this with a handsaw and just cut across, cut it to the right dimensions. It's not going to be as quick, maybe not as clean, certainly not as fun, but a handsaw is a lot cheaper than a miter saw if you don't have a miter saw.
Sides up, just like that. And then put this across to measure the two of those. Should I probably use a tape measure here? Yeah, probably. This will work almost as well. But this is just a quick and dirty little build so I can get access to my bandsaw and get my shop working again.
Like I said, I'm going to make a cradle today, so the next step is to actually cut a brace or two to go underneath, same width. Hopefully this is going to work. countertop this is going to be next to is 34 inches. My butcher block is 1 inch thick. So take that off, we'll cut the legs to 33 inches. And then that'll be close enough so that it looks almost like they're supposed to fit next to each other. Even though they are fancy boy screws and don't actually need a pilot hole, I think that butcher block countertop is a little bit hard for them. So we're going to go ahead and do a starter hole. Alright, next step is these sides that we're going to screw into these stringers. And that is the top. It's pretty? Hell no. Will it work? Yes. Just about the same footprint as the machine. A little bit of room on the sides. So if I have a bigger piece that can hang out either way. Cool. Now let's do the legs. Now with the offcuts, put some stringers on there, just to help keep everything nice, straight, and square. At the moment, it's a bit like a newborn giraffe with legs going everywhere. And if you want to get real fancy, you put a piece of plywood across the stringers as a shelf for, say, you're cutting supplies. Alright, there we are. Fits over there nicely. Out of the way in the corner, so won't get too much stuff in the way with it. Room to slide things underneath this way. This is on wheels if I need to move it, or this is light enough if I really need to. I can move it back over to the workbench. But the important part is that this is out of the way. The bench top bandsaw can go back on the bench top. So it's not the prettiest, but it works, which is the important part. So that's taken care of. Ready to move on. I mean, the overall, though, I'm very happy with this. I mean, for me, it was less than an hour of work. 4 2x4s at $3.50 a piece. So I'm into this for like 15 bucks worth of materials. If you wanted to do it, you could probably do it for under 25, definitely under 30. If you had to buy a 1/2-inch piece of plywood for the top, and a 2x2 from, say, an orange box store. But it's a good option, gets it out of the way. And I always like it when my tools have their own home. That's it for today. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.